Now, the Zamfara State Governor, Dauda Lawal, has alleged that the federal government is negotiating with terrorists in the state without his knowledge. Lawal, a member of the opposition People's Democratic Party (PDP), has been critical of negotiating with terrorists. Now, he said he has reports that negotiations are being carried out with some terrorists in various local government areas in Zamfara State. The governor called for a comprehensive investigation into what he calls secretive negotiations held with bandits in the state. Now, reports indicated that a delegation allegedly sent by some agencies of the federal government has been holding talks with bandits groups in Zamfara without the knowledge of the state government. Now, that much is the heart of the governor's contention, as revealed by his spokesman, Sulaiman Idris. The governor lamented the action of some federal government agencies engaged in negotiations with bandits without seeking recourse from the state government and other security agencies. Well, we have still with us in the studio, Barrister Eze Eluchie. And now, just recently, Friday, there was kidnap of students in Zamfara, and then some were released. We heard about 24. 6 were released the same day. And the president gave marching orders on Sunday that, the military should ensure the release of more students. And then after the marching orders, 7 were released yesterday. But we didn't hear that there was combat. We didn't hear there was confrontation. Doesn't that tell you that they are negotiating, really?
Well, the security situation in Nigeria is quite worrisome. It's actually pathetic. Because when you have people who might have been in bed with these elements, or who have politicized terror, use terrorism as a political tool in governance, it is difficult to address terrorism. Why I say this is this. This crop of rulers we have now, I don't call them leaders, they are rulers. They are the same crop who told us that any attack on Boko Haram is an attack against the North. They are the people who, when in the era when Borno was a no-go area to government, this crop of rulers took a walk down the streets of Maiduguri in the middle of the attacks by terrorists. So you see, it's like they know themselves. That is my own view of this. They know themselves. I really pity the Zamfara state governor, His Excellency Dauda. Why I say this is this. The current Minister of State for Defense, Matawale, is the person the Governor Dauda defeated in the immediate past election.
Okay.
So, and this is the man who is now responsible for this meeting with terrorists, in quotes. What Dauda is actually telling the world is, look what's going on. The federal government is meeting with our killers. And the news is that he's appealing to who? You are appealing to the same ministers who are meeting with these terrorist elements. You see, what this points out, what it leads to, is the fraudulent nature of the Nigerian Constitution. It goes to the root of it. A constitution that calls a state governor the chief security officer of the state. And that state governor does not have any control of even a corporal in any of the forces with arms. And you call him the chief security officer of the state. When there is crisis, you call on him, you lampoon him with blame, and he has no control. The ADC of the governor of any state is not answerable to the governor. It's answerable to the IG of police. The IG can withdraw your ADC and put another person who you don't even like. It's only courtesy that it's okay to take somebody. So the issue that is being brought to the fore is not just security. It's the fundamentals, the fraudulent nature of our Nigerian Constitution. Because there's a state governor should be chief security officer of his state. He should have armed policemen at the very least. Because if Governor Dauda had armed policemen, whether at the local government or state levels, the nonsense is complaining will not be, he will not complain. He will go and act. If you know that people are meeting with terrorists and you are scared, you don't come and complain to the same people who are meeting with the terrorists, for goodness sake. Because what he's telling us that even he's not even sure of of his state capital. And I wouldn't be surprised if after these meetings we have more killings and more violence in Zamfara. Because the person who is the minister of state, like I said, is Matawale, who lost to Daud. You have your enemy as the guy who is in charge of defense. And what you now ask yourself, the appointment of Matawale, knowing the very volatile nature of this northeast axis, was it deliberate? Even the substantive minister of defense is also from this same northeast zone. And this is where
Wasn't that supposed to be, a way to curb, unrest in the Northeast?
no, these men are politicians. They have no idea of. I mean, they may not have any idea of the security means of addressing these issues. So now they're meeting with terrorists. What are you meeting with terrorists for? Did the United States bother to meet with Al Qaeda? Does it make sense? These guys have a definite aim. They are involved in ethnic cleansing of genocidal proportions. Because what is going on in the Northeast is akin to what is going on in the Middle Belt. Entire villages get wiped out. I'm talking of 100 people killed in one fell swoop. And then we are covering these things up. Unfortunately for Nigeria, even the security reporters, the League of Security Reporters are on the payroll of the system. They don't get to report the realities. It is only when you have friends, like I do have friends who come from Zamfara State, and when you hear what comes out, what's going on there. A village you know existed today, in 2-3 days time, the entire village is gone. Everybody's killed and they do burial the next day. And it's being done by this imported militia. Mostly Fulani headsmen. They don't like to use those specific words, but that is the reality. Exterminating the indigenous Hausa communities. And at times it's over commercial deposits, gold mines. So you see, at what Governor Dauda is complaining about, when you look at it, it goes to the root of the Nigerian constitution. Not just security issues. Why is it possible for people who own lands in Zamfara, Sokoto, to own the gold buried in their lands? And they mine it and they sell to Dubai, they sell to foreign countries, they export it, and they become billionaires by selling the gold in their land. And then when there is crisis, or there is people now come and fight over who owns what land, you now call the Nigerian government to come in. And at the same time, if I have land where there's an oil well in Ebema or Abonema, I cannot touch 1 liter of that oil. The federal government will come in, and even when I try to mix or refine scraps of the oil, I get called an economic saboteur. So the issue, the governor is complaining, goes to the root of the constitution. Perhaps you never thought of it this direction, but that is the reality. Why is the state governor not the chief security officer in name and in deed of his state? 2, why are resources in that part of the country owned by individuals and not by the state? Whilst in other parts of the country, in the south and southeast, you cannot even dig anything that is under the land is owned by the government. When we address these issues and we are ready to address security, and not when you are using the same criminal elements, imported criminal elements for nefarious purposes in one part of the country, you now say, okay, you only stay here. You've already given them guns. If you give them guns and you can associate with them, who told you they will only stay where you are?
Now let's look at state policing.
Yeah.
Will state policing, will it curb some of these?
Oh, certainly. Why do I say so? When you say state policing and they have a right to bear arms, look at the police you have in the United States of America. The community police units. They have all the murdered of weapons that the military has. The US military knows that when they have to come into a community that has a community police, they may as well meet whatever kind of weapons there. Perhaps they won't have nuclear weapons, but they will have all kind of gadgets. They will have APCs, they will have TAR-21s, they will have AK-47, they will have everything. But they're called police. So if we had state police and they are restricted to their state, the governor of the Zamfara His Excellency Dawood will not be complaining. He will go and deal with the situation.
Now, if government is negotiating with terrorists, what signal does this give out, really?
Now, let us not miss words. If somebody has weapons, you either negotiate or you fight.
Okay.
Negotiating with terrorists is global. The US will tell you frontally they don't negotiate with terrorists, but it's a lie. They do. If
Does that not show weakness?
it depends on how you look at it. If somebody holding you by the balls, sorry for the language, you do whatever you do first to make sure that his hands is removed, priced away from your balls. Then if you want to kill him, you kill him. But while his hands are on your balls, you have to negotiate. So it's called carrot and stick approach.
Stick approach.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with negotiating with them, but then it's what next? What do you do? If you negotiate with them and you give them money, you have to have the capacity to ensure that once they leave that venue, you've given them the money and you've gotten what you want, you can get the money back. So, I mean, it depends on how you have to have the experts who are aware of, who know what to do to negotiate or engage. You maybe not use the word negotiate, call it engage. And engage could be either with arms or
Engage is a fancy term, actually.
Good. That's the ideal. Because even when you want to attack terrorists, you may have to use a bullhorn to talk to them, drop down your weapons, come out, we will not harm you, we will try to rehabilitate you. That's also a negotiation. So it does not really mean that every time you have to give money or whatever. We know weapons get exchanged in some of these things. But the reality is this: let us look at our constitutional process, our constitution. Must we continue to maintain this fraud that has allowed things like what His Excellency the Governor is complaining about? If we address it and give the governors the requisite powers they deserve as executive governors of their states, the governor of Zamfara will not be complaining against the minister he defeated. Because his worry is now, this minister is going to meet terrorists. You wouldn't know whether it's to equip them or to remove the guns from them. That's unfortunate.
Now, yes, it's interesting that you had to, say that, because if negotiations are held and monies are exchanged, or guns or weapons are exchanged, wouldn't that further empower the bandits or the perpetrators in this case? Now, in the case of Zamfara, how does this impact the overall security efforts in the state?
Well, Zamfara has been a hotbed, though a silent hotbed. We hear more of the Middle Belt. Like I told you earlier, the level of ethnic cleansing going on there approaches genocidal proportions. So if we can address Zamfara, and it's a gateway state. I mean, after Sokoto on the border is Zamfara. So there are hundreds of thousands of these terrorist elements coming down from all the Sahel region. This is now a Pan-African issue. They come in and they're coming through there. You remember we had governors who said that any Fulani from anywhere in the world can come to Nigeria and it is their home. They don't even do immigration checks. So they have allowed this to continue for so long. Now this is payback time. These consequences is now what is unfolding. These rascal terrorist elements who don't have any stake in Nigeria are shooting and killing without qualms. And the killings going on there are horrific. And if we don't stem it there, not just for this Northeast, the entire country should ensure that we stem this crisis at that location. We missed it out when we allowed it to metastasize from Borno. Now it has almost enveloped the entire northern region. Kano State is being protected because of its very volatile nature. But I mean, if it continues this way, from the northeast and from the northwest, it's only a matter of time before Kano gets enveloped. And then there'll be a gradual push down. So we should take it seriously. But how can we take it seriously when the president and his entire system is fraught in so much fraud? I mean, we don't even trust and believe in what they're saying. That is the essence of this issue. That is why we must try to get our acts right, have the right people in the right places, and then we can have the hope that things will get better.
All right then. Now, lastly, are there, aside from looking at the Constitution of Nigeria and trying to rejig it or change it as it is, are there any other specific measures or that you think the federal as the government can implement to combat terrorism?
Yes.
In the country?
I mean, one thing is to ask, not just dish out appointments. There must also be responsibilities and accountability. You name service chiefs, you name brigade commanders, they have lofty pays, lofty entitlements, but no responsibility, no accountability. There is no punishment for any lapse. 50 students get abducted, nobody is punished. 100 students get killed, nothing happens. But somebody is the commander of police in that area, or the brigade commander. What is he doing? So if the government insists on responsibility and accountability, and not just giving out perks of office, everybody will sit up. In all these areas that we're talking of, for goodness sake, there's somebody who is the Comptroller General of Immigration, of Customs. How do these illegal immigrants, terrorists come in? You give national awards to these elements, these so-called high-ranking officers, and their ass is leaking. They are not responsible or accountable for anything.
Let's be careful with language, please.
Okay, yes. No, but I'm trying to just understand what I mean. I mean, they're not responsible or accountable for anything. In Imo State, the police headquarters was stormed by so-called anarchist elements. And what happened? The police commissioner, instead of being dismissed and made to face order room trial, was promoted somewhere else. So as long as we have this culture that lacks accountability and responsibility for official engagements, we cannot solve anything. If the DPO in that locality where any atrocity takes place is held to account, he will behave himself. He will ensure that not such. So once we begin to do that, then we are sure we are now making progress. But then, who will ensure accountability and responsibility for positions held? Is it the people who are not accountable, who are not responsible, who are also fraudulent? Come on. I mean, I would don't want to sound hopeless for this country, but we have to do the right things, and to be able to hope for any better things, we have to start from the foundations, and the foundations are so basic. I've not made anything that is miraculous or magical. All I have said is, whoever has any official position must be held responsible and accountable. And then you should also give proper remuneration to those servicemen and policemen and security personnel who risk their lives to secure us all. You cannot be paying corporals who are in the field, the rank and file who are in the field, you pay them peanuts. And some general or officer who is sitting in Abuja in air-conditioned rooms, has houses in Dubai, gets all the accolades. That's not how it works. If you've been in the US, I keep on using the US because I stayed there for a while. When soldiers come into planes, into some airplanes, there is an announcement that so-and-so servicemen are returning home. We should please stand up and give them a round of applause. The entire plane passengers get up to applaud a corporal or a sergeant so that they appreciate that they are respected. What do we do in this country? The people who do the legwork, the men and in the military, in the police, they are treated as if they are not subhuman beings. You throw somebody into the streets, you don't give him proper salary, no proper accommodation, and you expect him to do miracles. And then the general or the inspector general of police and whoever are in costly atmospheres in Abuja, dishing out orders to where they don't even know. So these are the basics. When we get that basics right, then we now know we have begun the journey towards development. For now, unfortunately, we are going in the reverse direction.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Unfortunately. Well, I must say thank you very much, Barrister Eze Eluche, for your comments and views on the program. Thank you for staying
with us. It's always my pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, that's it, and we'll take a break. But before we do so, do know that the views and comments expressed on the show are that of the guest and not the position of the station. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will continue with business, entertainment, and sports. Stay with us.